Welcome to the Pursuit of the Perfect Race. I'm Coach Terry Wilson, and with each episode, I bring stories of athletes to you that share their experiences at races in order for you to learn how to have your perfect race. We'll hear stories from athletes of all ages, abilities, and races of all distances. So regardless of where you fit in, there's something in there for you. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let the pursuit begin. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pursuit of the Perfect Race. Today I'm talking with Coach Todd Malcolm about his recent race at IRONMAN Mont Tremblant that took place on August 18th, 2019, where he had a time of 10 hours, 28 minutes, and 58 seconds. Welcome to the show, Todd. I look forward to having you on the show and talking about your race, man.
Well, thank you, Terry. I'm looking forward to being on your podcast. It's an honor to be a part of this.
You're more than welcome. So before we really get into the fun stuff of it, why'd you want to do this race in the first place?
Well, every year I do an Ironman. So I've done 16. This is 16 now. And I go where my athletes go. And I had a bunch of people come to this race, so I said I'll come and do that race as well.
Okay. And this isn't your first time. This is your third time at Mont Tremblant, right?
Third time in Mont Tremblant and 16th Ironman, yeah.
Wow. So you've been a coach. Why do you coach, and why are you still doing this sport anyways?
Good question. I started doing triathlons back in 92, and I just thought it was the greatest thing ever. And then I tried to get as fast as I could in it. And then once I had kids, I wanted to teach people how they could, make triathlon part of their life and get as fast as possible as well, because it's such a rewarding sport. I just like to share it with people, and I find there's nothing else like triathlon that allows you to set a gigantic goal and push yourself to get to it. And once you accomplish it, it's pretty darn awesome. So I love doing that myself and love sharing it with people. Wow.
So you have 2 kids, 2 boys, you're a husband, and you're also a coach to 30 athletes or so. How are you managing all your time here?
Well, it's just like anyone who has a job is you have to, you have to create a schedule that works for yourself. And I've, created a schedule that works for myself, and able to know what I'm going to do each day. So if I know when I'm swimming each day of the week and biking, and it doesn't interfere with the family, you can make it work.
All right. So now with your athletes, do you teach them time management skills? Because as a coach, that's like one of the best things you can teach athletes is time management.
Yeah. Before we start our training, we sit down and I create their week training schedule with them. So I write down on a piece of paper Monday to Sunday, and I go, which days you're going to train. So, and the first thing I ask them is, which day do you want to have off? Right? A lot of people want to fill it up. I go, what day do you want to have off so that you need that day off? And people go, oh, so they have to take a step back and go, which is the busiest day of the week that their life is about? And then they take that day off so they can recover. And then we go, okay, so how many swims do you want? How many bikes do you want? How many runs do you want? And we slide it in when there's time available.
Okay. So let's talk more about yourself here. I know you did a 5K swim. You also did a 150-kilometer bike ride, and you did the Boston Marathon going into this race, as well as 2 training camps. How did you feel confidence-wise going into Mont Tremblant?
My confidence was pretty high because the race is in August, and we really start training, in October is our off season. And so we continue to train, and the fitness builds and builds. So having the Boston Marathon in April was a huge thing to get your running fitness up, right? So I've never done that before. So that was a huge injection of run training in April. And then I was off to Mallorca to do a training camp, and that was just a great injection of bike training and plus a little race. And then we did a training camp in Hawaii. And again, that builds your fitness up. Hawaii is all about the biking and the swimming. So we become stronger and stronger. Once I came back to Calgary, the temperature is warm enough, so we do a lot of swimming. I have a lake in my community, and I have run classes out, so I swim the lake a lot. And so my fitness in swimming builds and builds and builds. And by the time I get to August, I'm actually in really good shape. And so all those events help build my fitness to a point where I go, okay, I'm ready to go.
Okay. Now, Are you going after Kona? Is that your goal, is to get a slot to Kona? Is that your goal?
I raced Kona back in 2008, and I would love to go back. But it is one hard race to get into. So this year I was 14th in my age group. And I know that for me to get there, I'd have to come top 5. So it's quite a ways away. But yeah, if I had a spot to Kona, I would definitely take it.
Wow. So to transition a little bit here, you mentioned the training camp in Mallorca. Did I say that right? Mallorca?
You know what? I don't say it very well. I think I say Mallorca.
Okay. That city. But you had some vertigo there. What happened there? Yeah,
so we were there for a week. And so we do 5 days of training. And then the 6th day, we do the 70.3. And like 3 days before, I woke up and my world was spinning. Have you ever had vertigo?
I have. It's not cool.
It's not cool at all. So I woke up, my room was spinning. I had to try to get it under control. And if I found I didn't move my head much, then it was okay. But the difficult part was trying to bike because it's so hilly there. And, if you take a wrong turn, it could be disastrous, right? Anyways, the thing is I was able to get it under control. And on a race day, I woke up, I still had a bit of it. But with really focused concentration on how I move my head, I was okay.
Wow. So were you worried about this long term? Was this something that you found the cause of? What happened?
I think what happened is I might have had a shower one night and maybe I didn't dry the water out of my ears. And so I might have slept with water in my ears and that caused the vertigo. I wasn't worried about long-term effect. I've had it before, like many years ago, and it goes away. But anytime you have a problem with your brain, it's always cause for alarm, right? So, but it did go away. I had some chiropractic treatment, and that helped a lot. Massage helped a lot, and even my massage therapist put me to this video where you manipulate your head to reorientate your crystals in your ear. And by doing that, it gets, which was crazy, but it worked.
What kind of video was that? Is it on YouTube?
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but I think if you type up how to solve vertigo and type in crystals, it'll pop up.
Okay.
It's like a 3 or 4 minute video, and crazy enough, it worked.
I have not heard of that. I mean, I know about the crystals in your ear. I mean, I have a degree in kinese, so I understand that. So let's talk more about the fun stuff going into this race. You traveled to the race. You flew with your bike there, but you took a red-eye flight from Calgary. Why did you take a red-eye?
I take the red-eye so I can maximize my time wherever I'm going, right? So I would fly at 1 o'clock in the morning here, and then I arrive in Quebec in the morning at 7. So I have a full day rather than wasting that day in travel. So I just do it for maximizing my enjoyment of where I'm going to.
But are you able to sleep on a plane?
Yes and no. It's I find that you get a couple hours sleep, 2 or 3 hours. And I get there on Wednesday. I'm racing on Sunday. There's enough time to acclimatize.
All right.
I'm not worried.
Because you're only going, what, an hour over? 2 hours over? I think it's 2 hours. Because you're one from me and then one over. Yeah, so you're 2 hours over.
2 hours. It's not bad.
So this race venue, it hasn't changed much from what I understand it to be. How did you perceive this race venue to be and the setup? I know there was the highway is amazing up there, and that run trail I ran on earlier this year for the 70.3. I love that run trail. They need to pick it up and bring that trail down to Texas so that way I can run on it more. But how did you want to actually go into this race with a strategy? Because you're self-coached and you set up on your own plan. You did a 2-week taper going into this. How did you want to attack this from a strategic point of view?
Well, let me just first say that I think this is one of the best Ironmans on the circuit. Like, I've raced all around the world, and this is one of the best races you can ever go to. Like, you've been there, so you know how good it is. The whole town embraces Ironman. You don't feel like you're intruding on anybody. And the cool thing is you're going there, and even though I'm Canadian, you feel like you're in a foreign country because of the language. And so everyone's speaking French. like I took French in school, but it's really neat to be a part of that. And so I got to dig deep to try and find out the words to, certain things. I like to play wherever I go, whichever country I travel to, I like to play with the language. Right. And so I like to do that. And it's embarrassing to be a Canadian who can't speak French, but it's true. So first thing is, it's a wonderful place. If anybody wants to do a great Ironman, then do Ironman Mont Tremblant. It's 100% a fantastic race. So this is my third time doing the race, so I know it pretty well. So to go into a strategy, it's easy for me to do that. So I had my training already planned up to the race. And on race day, as long as the swim is smooth, I should be able to swim close to an hour. Right? So as far as where do I put myself, it was a rolling start. Have you ever been to a rolling start?
I have, yep.
Yeah. So this one, I don't think they do as good of a job as they actually could, or the people don't understand how to do the rolling start. They have like a gate where 6 people can go in, and they have lights up, and you're supposed to go every 2 seconds or something like that. But you can tell people don't know what's going on. So once they're in the corral, they just keep going and going and going. So for me, I know what to do. I'm looking at the light. It's red. Don't go. Wait till it turns green, and then I go. But most people aren't doing that. So it's a bit of a disconnect for what they're trying to do. But I can understand what they are trying. So it's getting closer. But by doing that, it really spreads people out, which is fantastic. For me, I can swim in about an hour or two. So I put myself near the front, and I started far right. And the cool thing with this race is they number the buoys. So there's 13 buoys out. Then you turn, and coming back there's 14. So as you're swimming, you can look at the number on the buoy and you know how close you're making it to the turn, which is fantastic. And for me, I start far right so that I have no one around me. So sometimes I get a little bit claustrophobic with people around. So going far right or far left is a great way to give yourself extra room for swimming. And for me, I want to minimize the distance, so I started far right. And the conditions were great. They were calm, they were cool, and yeah, it was good. The water temperature was in the low 20s. We probably could have gone without a wetsuit if we wanted to, but I understand that a lot of people like that confidence of having a wetsuit, so we all wore wetsuits.
Okay. I know you stayed 10K away at an Airbnb. When did you book this Airbnb?
So I did a lot of traveling this year. So I'm doing my sixth trip coming up in 2 weeks. So I spent a ton of money, right? And so I'm trying to do this as cheap as possible, right? So I booked a bed and breakfast before, and I booked it way in advance. But then, like 2 or 3 weeks before the race, I went on Expedia.com and checked and go, you know what? I can get a condo and save myself $200. So I switched to this condo 10K away in St. Jovite, and it was perfect. I've got a kitchen, I've got a bathroom, a bedroom, and couch for a really reasonable price. But I had to, drive in, 15 minutes to the race site, which at the end of the day is no big deal. So for me, it was all about saving money.
Now, did you fly into Montreal?
Yes, I like Montreal. So you can either go Ottawa or Montreal. They're equidistant, but for me, I like Montreal.
Montreal is traffic. When I went through there, it was a nightmare earlier this year because it's over rivers and there's bridges you can't get through. And it's like the city was built many, many years ago, and it's not built for that many people to live there, at least from what I perceived it to be.
I found the traffic not too bad, but yeah, there's a lot of construction, and I think you need to give yourself time. So if you're traveling there and if you're used to getting to the airport right on time, give yourself like an hour. Otherwise, you're going to be freaking out in the car. And I kind of started freaking out a bit in the car. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is major traffic. Like you said, a lot of construction. But you know what? I got there on time and everything worked out.
Wow. So did you bring the family with you?
No, I find that for me, I just I try to keep it work related, and if the family does come, then I'm pulled between the family and then work, and then nobody wins. So really, it's just when I do these races, it's just myself.
Okay. So they don't like seeing you race in person?
Well, they've seen me enough, so it's not as exciting as it would be for someone who's doing it for the first time. And so for me, I like having my family there. Like last year, I raced Calgary 7.3, which is my town, and they're supporting me. It was awesome, like really, really awesome, because I never get that. But when I'm racing abroad, I when I see signs and people, hold the signs, "Go Dad," I imagine they're cheering for me. So I do that. It's, what you have to do.
You're stealing their support.
I'm stealing their support. And I high five. If I see kids on the side, I high five all of them. I just take that power, and I think that's great because it's encouragement and helps me keep going. And it's a good reminder of what I have back home.
All right. So as far as the check-in at the village, how was the village for you? You've been here 3 times. What was all this like for you?
It's funny, doing all these events, you'd think I'd be cool as a cucumber, but it's stressful. It's really stressful. But the nice thing is that being 10K away, I don't have that stress. But once I come in, you can feel that stress. Now, I'm an AWA, so all-world athlete, so I have, early or late check-ins. So that's kind of a nice perk. But I'm also a guy that doesn't need to be there, do things right away. I don't mind being late. So the bike check-in, I think you had from 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock. I arrived at like 3:30 when most of the people have already checked in. So I just rolled right through. It was easy.
Oh. Now, as far as your packet and the swag that you got, did you get the normal stuff?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not a guy who needs swag. Like, I've done so many races. I got so many backpacks, too much stuff. I have posters in the corner just piling up. I don't need this stuff. Like, I know a lot of people go, "Oh, the backpacks are this quality," or "We didn't get any posters, we didn't get a flag." I don't need that stuff. I just want the race, right? I want a quality race, good volunteers, well organized. That's the most important thing to me. Okay. I don't need the extra swag.
Well, what do you wish they would give you instead of the swag then?
I don't need the swag. I just need
a lower
the
price to register.
You know what? I'm a big fan of Ironman, and I think it's one of the greatest things out there. And yes, I know it costs a lot of money, but you get a ton of stuff in return. Like, you get a race you're training for the whole year. You get a well-supported event for 2 or 3 days. I think it's fine. I don't need any more. I think they do a great job. I really do.
Wow. I also agree with that. So the day before the race, I know you did a 10K run was your last workout on that Friday. And let's see here. The day before the race, what are you getting as far as nutrition in? Do you have a certain breakfast, lunch, and dinner you want to get in? What's this like?
Okay, so I'm not the most nutritious or healthy guy. I'm just going to say that right away. Okay,
so you're out eating pizza and hamburgers the day before.
Well, I'm like, what did I have for breakfast that day? I think I woke up and I went to McDonald's and I had my egg McMuffin, coffee, and like a hash brown. So I had that. And then after that, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to drive the course. I'm in the car. I just drove the bike course to get really familiar with the course. And actually, the day before, I usually get my athletes to go, you can do like a 30-minute choice workout, either swim, bike, or run. I chose not to do anything. I said, you know what? I'm good. I don't want to do anything. I'm just going to drive the course and chill out. I didn't want to do any training that day. The day before, I did that 10K, like you said, on that pathway. That pathway is insane. It's called Le Petit Train du Nord. And I know I just killed it in French, but it's an amazing, amazing pathway through the forest. That used to be an old train system, right?
Yep. And
now they have it for a multi-use. So running, bikes, cross-country skiing. And it started right outside my condo. Seriously. So I walked outside and boom, I'm right in the forest.
It's amazing.
So that day I woke up and I ran to the run turnaround, and then I came back to my condo. It was perfect. And no one was out there. I did it early in the morning. It was an amazing way to start the day.
And when I ran on it for the 7.3, I didn't do the race, but I was there volunteering. There wasn't one piece of litter on that course. Not one. Not a cigarette butt, not a gum wrapper, nothing. I didn't see anything. Like, it's amazing how clean that is.
Yeah, I don't know if that's because it's Canada. Do you just find Canada's? I don't know. Like, I'm just saying, like, when I go running too here in Calgary, there's not a lot of garbage around. So I don't know if it's where we are Are Canadians cleaner than Americans? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't want to like throw my own country under the bus or anything. Yeah. But I mean, the shoe fits.
I will agree with you. Is pristine pathway. But one thing that I didn't know, and maybe you didn't know it either, there's actually a sign up, and I read it afterwards. Runners are supposed to be on the left side. Yep. I didn't know that. I was running on the right side.
Yeah, I knew that because like I passed somebody and they just gave me this weird look and then they said that way. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll go over there.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the cyclists are on that side. They come at you, and then they're supposed to go around you, and you stay where you're at. And so I didn't understand that, so I apologize to anybody on the bike path that I offended. I didn't mean to do that. It just I read the rules after I got onto the pathway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you did for lunch and dinner. Did you have a certain meal?
Well, believe it or not, I did not go back to McDonald's. That was enough. What did I do for lunch that day? I can't remember lunch, to be honest. Sorry. But I did go to one of my athletes' place, and we had barbecue chicken and salad, I think, for dinner. It was perfect. Really, really good.
Okay. So think about what time you wanted to go to bed and wake up. What does that look like?
That's always the biggest question is, what time to wake up. To me, I'm a guy that goes to bed at midnight most days, so it doesn't matter really what time I go to sleep. It's what time do I need to get up, do my stuff, and make sure I get to my place I'm going to park on time. So I woke up, I think, at 4:10.
Okay. So let's back up a little bit. You brought up a good point. When did you start scouting out where you were going to park?
That was, when you think about stress, that was the most stressful part of the whole race for me.
Really?
Believe it or not, was where to park. Because usually there's lots of shuttles. Do you remember the shuttle system they have?
Yep.
Right? And I thought, okay, so if I take the shuttle and I finish the race, how do I get my bike back to the area? I don't know. I still don't know how to do that. And so my athlete who was living up on, he rented a condo up on the hill. He said, Todd, just come parking out in our area. You park there, and then we will shuttle you up to the condo. So once I had that figured out, my stress was gone.
Okay. So that was easy enough. So you get up at 4:10. What time did you try to go to bed?
I think I probably was in bed around 10:30 or 11.
Okay.
Yeah. So
you got a little bit of decent sleep, it sounds like. Let's just go ahead and walk through your splits real quick. You had a swim of 102.15, T1 340, bike time of 5:43.15, T2 of 2:44, and a run of 3:36.59 for a total of 10:28.58. So knowing that now, let's just kind of walk through this. You get up on race morning. What do you have for breakfast, and what time do you actually leave the condo?
Okay, so usually I don't eat breakfast. Like for most of these Ironmans, I'm a guy that does not eat breakfast because I this is how I think about it. As long as you're fueling the days before, you're going to be okay. I don't care what you fuel with. Like, look, I had McDonald's, I'm going to be fine. I'm not saying have McDonald's, breakfast, noon, and lunch, or dinner, but it's going to be okay for breakfast. So as long as you fuel properly, you don't need to have something for breakfast. Although last year, if you remember last year, we had a fog delay. We had a delay of 1 hour, and I've never been delayed by an hour before. And that really messed up my system, but I didn't know that until after the fact. Like I had a good swim last year, a good bike, and I was running really, really well until 6K. And when I got to the 6K mark, I go, I need to stop. It was just like when you're driving your car and you realize, oh my gosh, I forgot to check the gas, and you're out of gas, and you pull over to the side of the road because you have no gas. That's what happened last year.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think it's because of that hour delay. Because I usually, I don't have breakfast. I have one gel before the start of the swim, right? So I do that, and then you wait an hour. So you wasted that, lost an hour. Then you swim for an hour, hop on your bike, and then after 30 minutes, I start fueling. So it's been a long time since that gel.
Right.
So this year, I'm like, okay, my main goal is not to run out of gas on this race. That was my main focus. So I had breakfast. So I woke up and I had an energy bar. And that was my breakfast. And I had some orange juice. So I had a couple of glasses of orange juice. And then I was out the door driving to my athlete's condo.
Okay. So what time did you actually leave your condo and get over there?
Well, I probably left about, I would say 4:30, and then I arrived at his place at 5 o'clock. And we wanted to leave his condo at 5:15.
Okay. So knowing that there might be a delay again, did you have a backup plan in your mind of what you would do if it was delayed again?
You know what? That's so funny you say that. Like, I didn't even think there'd be fog again. Honestly, I didn't. But in my bag, my dry clothes bag, I had a lot of food. So I had, bars and gels and blocks. So if I had to have fuel, it was there. And when I woke up, you could tell it wasn't that foggy. So you could tell right away that it wasn't going to be delayed. Awesome. You could see all the buoys. So it was like, it's not going to be a problem today. But I had that fuel in my bag ready.
Good.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the fun stuff now. You get over to transition. What are you actually doing in transition before you head out and go down to the swim start?
Okay, so the first thing I do, I got dropped off by my athlete's ex-wife. I know it's a crazy story, but it's true. And then I walked almost into transition, but the first thing I saw was like 6 porta potties. And I go, boom, I'm going right there. And there was no lineup. Right. So I go in there and I do my business right away. That's the most important thing for me in the morning, is to get that porta potty break done. Because I know I have to go at least 2 or 3 times. It's just how it is. Maybe too much information, but
I've talked about bodily functions plenty on here. So
nice.
Yes, the norm is everybody's got to go poop at least 3 times before the race. That's the norm.
Yeah. And I don't know what it is about these races, but I get stressed. And so 2 or 3 times I go, it's just going to happen. So that's number one. I go, number one is checked off. And then what I do is I go into transition and I go to my bike and I want to check my tires and make sure the pressure is good. And I'm not one of these guys that needs to pump up the tires all the time. I'm not. I just don't. I do like a thumb check, and if they're good, then they're good. And I'll roll the front wheel, press hard on the brake to make sure that they're not rubbing. Same thing with the back. And the brakes aren't rubbing. And now I add nutrition to my bento box. So put all the gels and salt onto the bento box, add my water bottles to the bike, and then I put my bike computer on the bike. And then that bike is ready to go. I say, see you later to the bike. And then I drop off my run special needs and my bike special needs.
Okay. And what are you putting in both of those? You're putting some Band-Aids and some other stuff, right?
Yeah, run special needs is something that I don't really use a lot. I only use it there in case of emergency. So yeah, I put Band-Aids, like you said, in case I get a blister. I put it in Red Bull. I like Red Bull. Extra base salt if I lose it, for example, and some extra energy. So it could be a gel or a bar in there. And in the bike, I will do Red Bull, 2 more water bottles of my own mix, and then a bunch of gels.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So you leave transition. Now, it's a little bit of a walk over there to the swim start, if I remember right?
Yeah, I think it's about, 7-minute walk or so. It's not that bad.
Okay, but you definitely need to think about that if you're doing this for the first time, because it's not close. You need to be aware of that.
That's right. And when you have, a few thousand people there, it's extremely, extremely stressful. Like, it really, really is. And you're like a sardine in there. So it's pretty stressful. And there's like a little shortcut to get there. So I took the shortcut. I stayed away from the masses.
Okay. Shortcut?
There's two roads that run parallel, right? So most people are on the main road, and there's a road that goes parallel. I went on that road going up, and there's a pathway through the trees, and then you connect with everyone on the top of the hill.
Okay. So when did you actually put your wetsuit on? Did they announce the temperature in transition, or did you have to wait till you were over there at the swim start before you knew?
No, I knew that there's going to be a wetsuit swim the day before, I think, or 2 days before at the athlete briefing. And I think so our swim start was going to be at 6:40. I probably started to put it on about, 6:28.
Okay. That's very precise. 6:28. It gives you exactly 12 minutes to put that on.
Well, I swim in my wetsuit like a ton, like seriously a ton. So it does not take me a long time to put it on. Putting on a wetsuit is not stressful for me at all.
Okay. So the fun stuff here, the cannon goes off for the pros. Is there a flyover for this race? There was for the half.
Yeah, so I start right near the front, and so I was watching the male pros go and the female pros go, and it's funny when that cannon goes off and they shoot off these fireworks. It's like, oh my gosh, it's pretty startling, right? But there was no flyover this year, and I think strangely enough because of the fog. I know last year the fog was like so thick you couldn't even see the first buoy, but this year there's still fog, but there's no flyover. So I don't know why there wasn't a flyover, but no flyover.
Oh, that stinks. So the swim takes you an hour and 2 minutes. Give me 2 things that went well here and give me something that you would improve on as well.
One thing that went well is on the way coming back in, as I'm taking a breath, I can see a lady right beside me, and I can, like, as a coach, I can really identify people who are good swimmers. I look at her and go, oh my gosh, she's a good swimmer. And I was just happy to be side by side with her, and I could tell that she was inching away from me. And I said, don't. And part of me wanted to give in to her, so just let her go. And the other part said, no, just keep pushing. And so I kept pushing with her for about three buoys, and I was so happy with that. And then she eventually got away from me, and then I kind of snuck behind her, and I drafted her for about 2 or 3 buoys. And the difference between swimming solo and swimming behind her feet was amazing, the difference. I bet you like 30% difference.
Wow. What else?
I liked being able to see where I was going. Last year it was so foggy I couldn't even see where the buoys were. So it was nice to have that. I don't think I got kicked or hit or anything. And the one thing that I do kind of feel bad about is I swam into somebody. Like, I'm just in a rhythm and we're coming around the second half and I ran right into a guy. He must have stopped his sight or something or fixed his goggles, and he was just stopped dead in his track, and I ran right into him because I wasn't expecting someone to be stopped right in front of me. So I kind of feel bad about that. But yeah, it was a really good swim.
Okay. Now, did you use lube on your wetsuit to make sure you didn't chafe around the neck?
No, I don't use lube at all. No.
Oh wow! So no chamois cream, nothing.
No. One thing I do use is my goggles sometimes fog up, so I use these wipes called Foggies, and they work like a charm. They're wonderful.
Okay. So you get done with the swim. You had a goal of 3.5 minutes for T1, 10 seconds slower than that overall. But this is a pretty long transition area because you have to run all the way from the swim out down this path, kind of do this little zigzag to get in transition, and then go to your bike. And then the mount line is on the other side of transition, and you go up this slight hill coming out of transition, if I remember right. How was this for you?
It was fantastic. So I come from like a short course background, so I'm actually pretty good in transition. Coming out of the water, I got my swimsuit down to half of my, down to my waist. I used the strippers. The strippers pulled it off pretty fast. And then I'm running with my wetsuit over my shoulder, running fast down the pathway. I know exactly where my bag is. Pick up the bag. We're running to the change tent. I run right to the exit of the change tent, and I make sure a volunteer is there to help, if I need help. But the difference for this race was that you need to pack your own stuff, take your bag, and then run to another spot to put it. So the volunteers didn't take it. You had to do it yourself. And then from that moment, I just ran into transition. Because I was an AWA athlete, my number was like 323, and I was racked, pretty close to the front. Grabbed the bike. As I'm running to the bike, helmet on, I'm running with my shoes, grab my bike across the line. I'll back up a second. Once I get to my bike, I put on my shoes, run with my bike across the mount line, and then I keep running. And I move over to the far left where no one's around, so it's easy to get onto the bike, and then away I go. Okay.
Now, for the bike, what was your strategy? I know overall you wanted to stay focused, stay fueled, and stick to your plan. What was your plan? Because I know you're not looking at really cadence, but you are looking at power. What was this like?
Yeah, I never used cadence on on a race day, I use cadence in training, especially for indoor season, but not outside. But the most important thing was fueling. So once I got on the bike and I was in position and felt confident, I took in a gel right away. So I want to get that fueling going right away. So I really did not want to repeat last year running out of gas. So within 10 minutes on the bike, I started fueling right away. And then the next thing I'm going to look at is my power and heart rate. Now, in the beginning, there's a little bit of cat and mouse happening between people, jockeying position. So I don't follow the power heart rate too closely. But after about 20 minutes, that's when I really start to dial in the effort and the heart rate.
Okay. With heart rate, do you have a heart rate range that you want to hit, or do you have more of a power range you want to hit? Or are you going off of an average power, normalized power? What's this like?
Oh, for heart rate, I want to keep everything 150 or under. So if I can do that, I'm happy. For the power, I'm looking on 3-second delay. And if I could, I'd just have the real power. I don't need average power or normalized power. I like to know the power right away, but my computer doesn't. The computer I have is element volt, and all I can get is 3 seconds. So I can't get to actual power. So I'm going off 3-second power.
That's interesting. I have a Garmin 1000, so I can't relate to that. I have options. So,
no, I have options, but that's the lowest that I have, right? So it's 3 seconds, but I would, if I could, just have the real power. So instantaneous. I like that.
Right.
And my range for the power, was around 185 to 199.
Okay. Now, is this range based off of your FTP? What's this percentage like?
Yeah, so my FTP was, I would do a test the week before, right?
What's this test look like?
It's a 30-minute test as far as you can go, and I do it outside.
Okay.
I like 30 minutes. I know some people like 20, but I like 30.
And are you looking at the whole 30 or the last 20, the last 15? What are you looking at?
I look at the full average.
Okay. So you're taking that average of that 30 minutes.
Yes. And then based on that, I go between 0.75 and 0.79 will give me my average.
That you want to hit on race day.
Yeah.
So you hit about 20% more than that for that average. Is that right? So you hit probably about 240, 250 on that test?
No, it was 251.
Okay.
Yeah, 251.
Okay, that's right on cue. Now, do you feel like this was a good plan looking back on the race of, hey, was too much power or too little power? Do you feel like you left them on the table or not?
You know what? I think it was bang on. I mean, it is what it is. If I want to be a faster cyclist, I need to get my FTP higher. I mean, just it is what it is. So I think that based on that number, I finished with a really good bike time. And I had energy left to do the run, which is the key.
Okay. So tell me about this course. I know this bike course, we won't go into too much detail, but there was some black eyes on Mont Tremblant here, and that was unfortunate, but this bike ride is very beautiful. It's scenic, and it's laid out fairly well.
Yeah, it's a fantastic bike course. And whenever you're going to do an Ironman, like 180 kilometers, you need to somehow chunk it down so you can do it, make it bite-sized, make it manageable. And I was able to break it down into six pieces. And by doing that, I could focus on each piece at a time. So once I completed that, I moved on to the next piece. Now I would just focus on the heart rate, the power, and fueling. So every 30 minutes, I'd hit lap on the bike computer, so I would know when to fuel. And it's like you said, it's a beautiful bike course. And at the end of each lap, there's a very challenging small out and back that you have to do. And the grades go up to, I think, 10 or 11%. It's going to slow you down. I even saw some people that were walking up the hill.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, this is on a beautiful highway. I was fortunate enough to see this earlier this year for the 70.3, and it's just 2 loops for the 140.6 here. What was this stretch of road like for you? Because you can literally just put your head down and go. Is that what you were doing?
Pretty much. The thing is, I don't want to be caught in any draft packs, or I don't want to be drafting. I'm a guy that really does not like that. So I could see some of those things happening. And so I would either surge ahead or I'd back off to, stay within a legal distance. But yeah, it's nice to not have any cars on the pathway, and closing the highway like that is just fantastic. It really, really is nice. They do a wonderful job.
Okay, cool. Something else I want to make note of here. You were on the bike for 5 hours and 43 minutes. This is a long time for one to spin in their head. You're not talking to anybody. You're not having conversations with anybody but you. How are you dealing with this mentally and emotionally, being able to stay focused and stay in your head for this long without going negative and saying, all right, I'm over this?
I think that's a lot of people do go into maybe a tailspin of negativity. And, for sure in the past I've done that. And my biggest place that I go to is an attitude of gratitude. So if I find that if I'm ever in a funk, I'll start by saying, thank you for the volunteers. Thank you for, having a body, being able to do this. Thank you for having participants out here. I just go to saying thank you for all this stuff. And before you know it, you're back out of that funk and you're into a more positive world. And it makes a big, big difference, because that's one of the greatest things about Ironman is, we kind of riding a roller coaster of emotions. Sometimes you feel like $1 million, and sometimes you feel like a piece of junk, right? And you need to dig yourself back up. And that's one of the things I like about Ironman is, how do you pick yourself up when you feel so low?
Right, because if you get into this negative headspace, it's so easy to let that overwhelm you and just go all the way down that rabbit hole and just give up. How do you pull yourself out of that if you don't address that head on? Because if you don't know how to get out of that, it's hard. How do you get out of that?
Well, like I said, you start by saying thank you, right? So you start by saying thank you for whatever.
Right, but you have to know that you have to address that, hey, this is an issue. I'm actually thinking negative. Because if you're thinking negative thoughts, you're not going, yeah, I'm thinking negative thoughts. You're like, man, this really sucks. I'm over this. You don't go, oh my gosh, hold on a second. Stop everything. I'm having a negative thought here. That's not how this works.
It is how it works. I'm telling you, that's how it works for me. I can recall doing a race in Whistler, and I'm going up this mountain. I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? When does this end? Who designed this course? I was in a horrible funk, and I go, whoa, Todd, what are you doing? I had to identify, look, you have this thought going on. It's negative. This is not okay. And I had to change it like that. And so instead of me thinking about how this sucks, I go, this is my last Ironman ever. I go, no, I'm not going to do that. I look around and go, thank you for this beauty of the mountains I get to see. Thank you for the trees. Thank you for the people. Seriously, you do that, and it's a game changer. It really is.
Well, I think that information is going to help a lot of people, honestly. So with the bike ride, you're wanting to hit 260 calories per hour. You're using some base products here. How is this working for you?
It works really good. So I train with that system. And so the biggest thing you need to do when you're training for an Ironman like this is you're training your body to consume this fuel on a timely basis. And so for me, I like the interval of every 30 minutes. So I'm using my bike computer. Every time I take nutrition in, I'm hitting lap. And so I'm watching that lap time, accumulate. So every time 30 minutes, I'm feeding myself. And don't miss it. And it's so easy to miss that button. So be consistent timing, training yourself to hit that button, training yourself to take in the calories so that you can keep going. It's you don't want to have that car run out of gas.
Right. Excuse me. So with the bike ride, give me 2 tips to wrap up the bike ride that you would give someone that hasn't done this course before.
I think holding back. It's so easy in the beginning to just give her. I got passed by so many people that they're just giving her. I'm like, because it's easy to go fast in the beginning, but I think you need to respect this course because it's so challenging. And the second loop, that last out and back, is so hard. By holding back will allow you to finish the bike ride knowing that you can run. Otherwise, you don't. You're going to get off that bike going, oh my gosh, I gotta do this marathon and it's going to suck. So I think holding back on that second loop for that out and back, you're going to feel a heck of a lot better.
Okay. And what else?
Well, timing and nutrition is a big thing. And I like the idea of breaking down that bike course into bite-sized chunks. And if you can do that, it's not like a gigantic meal you need to eat, but it's little tiny morsels that you can do. And by doing that, you gradually get through the bike course.
All right. So let's move on to T2 here. 2 minutes, 44 seconds here, and you're already running. Just a quick note here. You went down in paces on the bike ride. I think you were 10th, if I remember right, on the swim. Then you went down to 50th on the bike ride, and you passed quite a few people in your age group on the run here with this respectable time of 3:36:59 here. But you don't get there quickly. You get there over the whole course. How do you start out your run, and how does T2 go for you? I almost said T1.
Okay, so it's always interesting, and I made a race plan the night before, maybe 2 days before, because one of my athletes said, "Okay, Todd, it's time for you to send me your race plan so I can be your coach and review it." So I said, "Okay, I'll do that." And one, having the coach, having another person coach the coach, which is awesome. And one of the notes I put down was, when I get off the bike, it's always such a weird transition from biking to running. If you watch the pros on TV, they're running, they look so awesome. That's not how age groupers look. We don't look like that. We look horrible. We're kind of hobbling around. And I said to myself, when you get off the bike, Todd, just laugh to yourself thinking, okay, now you have to run a marathon, because you're hobbling like a really old person. And it's just comical to me that, yeah, now we need to go run a marathon. So I shuffle my way through to the tent, grab the bag, and what I do is I run to the end of the bag. I run to the end of the tent, and then I sit down, put on socks, put on my shoes, put on the hat, the number belt, put on my watch, and then away I go. And yeah, my run, the T2 split was pretty quick. So I was fairly happy with that.
Okay. Now, the run course itself, it's a marathon. It's nothing that you can tackle very fast. You have to be efficient and play it safe and smart. How are you tackling the first few miles? Because there's a lot of uphills in this first few miles, right?
Now, what we did on Friday is we biked the run course. So we kind of did a little bit of a recon of the course. So we knew what to expect. And again, just like I did with the bike course, I took the run course and I broke it down into chunks. Again, bite-sized chunks. Now there's 2 loops, right? 2 loops of 21 kilometers. And I broke it down. And the course is great that you can break it down to 5K segments. So you can have 4 chunks that you can really focus on. That first chunk is actually quite hilly. The second chunk is on that run pathway, and it's quite flat. The turnaround, again, on that pathway is quite flat. And then coming back in is a little bit rolling with a couple of hills. So when you know that, you have that in your mind, you can really you can approach the marathon that way. And for me, just like on the bike, I'm watching my heart rate, and now I'm watching my pace. So I'm not looking at power anymore. I'm just looking at pace and heart rate. But for the beginning, the most important thing is keeping that heart rate. Now, instead of being 150, it's moved up to 160. So I do not want to be over 160. So I want to be cool, calm, running at 160 or under. And so the pace didn't matter. So in the beginning, I'm running, my pace is around 440, which feels good, smooth, and comfortable. And I look at my heart rate, I'm 150. I go, that's good. And then I'm going to start fueling right away. So at the next aid station, I'm taking in fuel. I want that fuel in the body so that I'm feeling like I can do this. And just before I got off the bike, I took a gel as well, so I had more fuel in me. Remember, this race was all about fueling and not me running out of gas.
Right. So staying fueled and focused. Did you take the Red Bull on the bike ride? I didn't ask that.
Yeah, for me, I don't know how other people do it, but I'm a guy that I have to pee. So I ended up peeing 3 times. I get to a point that I gotta pee. So I find I think it was one of the hills, the last aid station on the highway. You had to climb a big hill, and at the top was an aid station. So I just pulled over, parked the bike, and then went to the porta potty, had a good release, and then back I went. At the special needs, I pulled over, I exchanged both water bottles, put in some new gels, and then again, a porta potty. Now, this is a funny thing. Maybe your listeners will like this. So I need to pee, but I need to take this Red Bull. So I'm in the porta potty. I'm peeing and also taking a Red Bull at the same time. And so I'm laughing to myself. It's going in and it's going out at the same time. It was almost perfect timing. So the time it took me to consume was the time it took me to get out. So it was, to me, it was just very comical. So I got to find, small things to make myself stay happy.
Right. So the run course, it's somewhat hilly. There's only 876 feet of gain here. What does the first loop feel like and go like for you versus the second loop?
The first loop felt quite good. Like I was still relatively far up into the race, like as far as position goes. And what I find is a lot of guys that have passed me on the bike. Now I get to pass them on the run because they're pushed too hard on the bike. And for me, I'm trying to run as smooth and as confident as possible. And that's about a 5-minute or under pace. And that's a pretty good pace. And I held that or faster for most of the first loop. And I felt quite good. And I focused on fueling, hydrating. And one tip that I get my athletes to do is in T2, I take sandwich bags, right?
Yeah.
Put 2 sandwich bags in there. And at the first aid station, and I get the people to put ice in there. So now I have 2 bags of ice. One bag I can put down my top, one I can put down the back of my jersey. And that allows me to stay cool.
Ziploc bags. So I've heard of the tube socks where people use tube socks. I haven't heard this Ziploc bag thing yet.
Ziploc bags are great. Yeah, I don't know. I would never use socks, but
well, if you put them in a tube sock, it's basically the same thing, but it doesn't keep the moisture as much. Or I don't know. It's a little bit different, I guess.
I don't know. I'm not into socks. I like the sandwich bags. And then the second loop, the second part of the marathon is just harder. But I did find that I could keep the pace up, and I did start to falter a little bit near the end. It just because you're at the end of the race, you've been exercising for over 10 hours. It just gets hard. But I was very pleased with my run, and I didn't have to stop very very much. And to finish in 3:36 I was very happy with that.
Okay, with the run, on the last part of the run, give me a little bit of what it's like for you as far as a train of thought for you to go through this.
You're at a point where you're like, I just want this to be over with. I want it to be over with. And it's so your body wants to stop and your brain wants to stop. And so any little elevation going up, you're like, oh, I could just walk. Oh, Todd, please just walk. Slow down. Just if you walk, you're going to feel so much better. So you have to stop listening to that voice and push through. So instead I go, look, no, I'm not going to stop because the sooner I get this over with, the sooner I get to stop for a long, long time. So just suck it up and then just keep going. Although one of my strategies during this run was whenever the elevation would go up, I would slow my pace down. So I keep my heart rate under control. And now one of the last hills I had to go up, I did walk and a guy passed me just before that. And he was in my age group. I'm like, oh my gosh, he passed me. And he had a strong pace. And I go, there's no way I'm going to catch him. So that was a little bit, too bad for me that he passed me near the end, but it is what it is.
All right. So, as far as the run course goes, if I remember right, last year they have a jumbotron there, and people can actually give you, like, you probably didn't experience this because your family wasn't there, but they had a jumbotron there where people can actually send messages to athletes on the course. Did they have that again there this year?
Yeah, and it's a great, great thing that they do. So last year we had a lot of people there, and we did a lot of messages for all of our athletes. And because I was staying close to the race site, we could do that. But because I was far from the race site, I didn't do that at all because I just wasn't around to do that. And so as I crossed that line, it activates the chip activates that. There was a message that popped up from 2 of my athletes. And one of our favorite sayings that we say to each other is, pick it up, dirtbag. And so they say, Todd, pick it up, dirtbag. And it just brought a big smile to my face. And I got to see that message twice, which is, you know what? When you're hurting at the end of a marathon or halfway through, it's really nice to have that. So it's a very special thing that the race puts on. And I love it.
Now, you've raced Kona. You've done other Ironmans. This is number 16. Where else have you seen that?
I don't think I've seen it anywhere, to be honest. I don't think I've seen it anywhere. I think that's the only place I've seen it. And in Kona, when I did, I mean, it's years ago. Maybe they have it now, but you'd hit a line in the energy lab, and your name would pop up. But I don't think there's any messages. Like, have you heard of that?
Nope. This is the only race I've heard it at.
And it's put on by TELUS, which is a communication company here in Canada. And so, yeah, it's fantastic. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So tell me about the mental battles here that you actually had to face. Did you have any mental battles where demons came out and played with you, where you were pushing, but it was hard and you had to overcome anything?
I think probably the hardest one for me is on the bike. Like, I'm a good swimmer. I'm a good runner, and my biking is still good, but it's not as strong as the top guy. So I get past quite a bit. And so for me, I had to kind of check that. And I said to myself in my race plan that you need to check your ego during this race. So when someone passes you, don't try to, push above and beyond the power that you're supposed to be at. You need to stay where your target is. And that's the biggest thing for me, is to stay where I'm at and not get caught up in the race and going above and beyond where I should be. But other than that, I didn't have a lot of negativity in the race at all. So it was really quite good.
Awesome. So tell me about the finish line shoot. Whenever you actually take that turn to go towards the finish line versus the second lap, what's this like for you?
Well, usually it's great. And there's no one around me, and I take my time and I come to the clock and I jump up. My traditional thing or trademark that I do, I jump up and I touch that clock, right? And I'm very appreciative of the whole thing. This time,
don't tell me you broke the clock.
I did not break the clock. No. This time, just before I made that right-hand turn, a guy just rockets past me. Like, where the heck did he come from? He's got an American flag waving. I look at his calf. He's 41, I think. I go, where the heck did you come from? And then as I make the chute, just before the left-hand turn to the chute, I go, I should look behind me to see if someone's there. So I look behind, and sure enough, there's a guy right there. And you have to make a decision, a split-second decision. What are you going to do? Like, do I go, or do I just, let this guy pass? And so I decided to sprint, and I sprinted across the finish line. I threw my arms up very quickly, but I was spent. Then I was done. I could hear Mike Riley say, Todd Malcolm, you an Ironman. But I was done. And the volunteer was there, and she looked at me and said, congratulations. I'm like, I need a chair. That's all I could say is like, I need a chair. She's like, congratulations. I need a chair. I was so tired.
Man.
But it was fantastic.
So after you got up out of the chair, there's a nice little food stand here. The chef here named Lindsay, he cooks poutine for everybody. Did you get some?
Oh, yeah. And it took me a long time to get out of that chair. Like, I was in that chair for about 45 minutes. I kid you not. Like, I just sat down there. I had nothing. They give you a chocolate milk at the end, which was great, but I did not leave that chair. Like, I seriously needed that chair. And I waited for my next athlete to come in. And so we chatted about his race, and then he left, and I waited for someone else. But yeah, I did not get my poutine for about, I bet you, 45 minutes. So I got up, and then I slowly made my way to get the poutine. But yeah, I'm all about the poutine. I love the poutine.
Wow. So for those that don't know what poutine is, go ahead and describe it for me.
Well, poutine is French fries, and then they put gravy on top of it with cheese curds. And I think this one, they had some kind of shredded beef. Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah. So I know looking back on it, you said this was pretty much a really solid race. You were prepared 9 out of 10. What else is there to really improve on here?
Well, I mean, that's the thing is the race for me was almost as good as I could do on that day. Like, I really don't have any major flags that could pop up and say, well, you should fix this or fix that, because there aren't any red flags. I tried to do as best as I could and stick to that race plan, and the results came out. I think the most disappointing thing for me, and it's really not that bad, it's just a reality, is the guys that beat me on the bike, they beat me by like up to 45 minutes. And
wow.
So that's where I'm losing time. But if I look at my swim, I'm right there on the swim. I'm right there on the run. And it's that bike where I'm losing a lot of time. But the reality is that's who I am. That's where I'm at. And do I want to work harder, really hard to get that bike down? Or am I happy coming in, top 14?
Well, Todd, just to wrap everything up here, you've been racing for many, many years. What races are still on your bucket list, man?
Oh, great question. In 2020, we're going to be doing Challenge Roth. So a bunch of us are going over to do Challenge Roth. So I've always wanted to do Challenge Roth. That's
You traitor. You're a traitor.
No. I'm not a traitor. You know what? I love the whole thing about triathlon, and Challenge is, you know what? Challenge Roth is one of the world's best triathlons. So I think everyone should experience that. I think, yeah, it's fantastic.
And like, if people don't know, like, they have over 4,000 athletes on this video on one day. And those cutoff times are harder than Ironman. So, and it's the same distance.
Yeah. It's no joke. It's going to be fantastic. And I've never been to Germany. I've only been to the airport a few times there. But so for me to step my feet onto Germany is another flag I can get to stick into my my world map on the wall. But I also want to do Ironman Lanzarote.
Oh man, the logistics to get there is just a nightmare.
That doesn't bother me. So, like for me, I wanted to do a training camp in Spain. So that was on my bucket list for a long time. So that's now been checked off. We'll go back again this year, hopefully. And I would love to do a training camp in Lanzarote. Look, guys, if you're out there, you're listening. If you want to do a training camp in Lanzarote, we can do a training camp for Lanzarote 70.3. We would do 5 days of training. Then on the 6th day, we would do and Lanzarote 70.3. It would be amazing.
Wow. So Lanzarote, Challenge Roth. What else do you want to do? Something else?
There's a race that one of my athletes did. It's called the Moab 240. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not. What is that about?
So you know where Moab is in Utah?
I do.
It's a endurance run of 240 miles. And so I was his crew member for that a couple of years ago, and it just blew my mind. The scenery, it was just off the chart beautiful, but it's a long, long way to go. Like 240 miles, that's a lot of running. But maybe one day I'll do that. Like this year, I'm all about checking off bucket lists. Like this year, I did the training camp in Spain. We did Boston Marathon. Next year coming up is Challenge Roth, right? So I'm all about trying to do all these dreams, and it's fantastic. So Moab will probably happen in a couple of years, and I don't know. What races would you like to do?
I'm going to do Comrades. That's been on my bucket list for a while, and I think it was Amy VT that actually told me to just stop doing random stuff and go for it. So I'm going to start going towards Comrades next year. So I'm looking forward to that.
So after Comrades, what do you want to do?
That is the question. So there with Comrades, it's not going to be a one and done, I don't think. I've already talked to the wife about that. She understands. With Comrades, you only qualify for the back-to-back medal once. The back-to-back medal is a medal that you get by a novice, like a first-timer, doing it twice back-to-back. And next year is going to be the 95th anniversary, and then the year after that would be the 96th. So I want to get the back-to-back medal there. And also I want to go back for the 100th year anniversary, which is in 2025. So looking forward to doing that a few times. Now, after the last Comrades, I would actually like to just take a break. Now, that doesn't mean completely like stop racing, but I want to do the Big Six marathons, so get my Big Six star. So, I mean, I can even do that in the process of all the others as well. But the Big Sur marathon's on my bucket list. The Honolulu marathon's on my bucket list. Little Rock marathon's on my bucket list. You notice a trend here. There's really no triathlons on my bucket list. But I think as far as triathlons go, I don't know. Like, there's a few out there that I want to do, but I don't really put them as a high priority because I'm a true runner versus triathlete. But I would definitely like to do Kona one day, qualifying for that. I'm not about that journey right now. Later on in my life, I'll start looking at qualifying and getting that journey started. But right now, I enjoy running way too much.
Nice. That's all right.
Yeah. Well, so to wrap everything up here, how can people follow you and reach out to you? And you also have something fun that's going on that's up your sleeve too, right?
Yeah, so you can follow me. Like I wrote them all. I'm the worst guy for knowing my own handles. So I wrote them down for you. What are they again?
Oh man, you asked me that. On Instagram, it's No Limits Coach. On Facebook, it's No Limits Try. Twitter is No Limits Coach. YouTube is No Limits Coach. And you have 2 websites here, No Limits Triathlon and then Map 2 Triathlon. Tell me more about this. This is what I was referring to that you had up your sleeve.
Yeah, so Map the Triathlon is a really cool program. It's we're relaunching it again in late September, and it's a fantastic program for people that are just getting into the sport or have been in for a while and want to learn more about how to get faster. And the idea is I'm going to take you on a pathway right from the beginning, and each week I'm going to give you content and videos to teach you this is what you can be doing and all the steps needed to do a triathlon. And we have 7 stages, and we're going to start from the newbie stage all the way to the finishing stage. And it's really fantastic. So we get videos each week. We'll do a live Q&A with me. So if you have any questions, if you come on live, you can ask me questions about your training, and it really is fantastic. And so if you want to learn more, go to map2triathlon.com and then add your name to the launch list, and then you can learn more about what's coming up. I'm highly biased, but I think it's super cool, and right now we got a lot of content in there, and it's going to help you become a really good triathlete.
That's awesome. So Todd, to wrap everything up here, how can I was going to ask how can people follow you? I already asked that. Sorry.
No problem.
What is your definition of a perfect race? You've raced plenty of times. What's your definition?
I've changed that over the years. Like, years ago, I would race by time. Like I've been lucky enough to win races overall. And even when I've won the races overall, I would not be happy. And I remember my wife going, "What is wrong with you? Like, why are you not happy that you've won this whole race outright?" And I would come up with excuses like, "You know what? I should have beat that guy in second place by more time or whatever." And now what I do is I've completely shifted how I look at this. And if I can do the best I can on that day, then I've had my best race. So what is the name of your podcast again?
The Pursuit of the Perfect Race.
Yeah, so I would say that my perfect race just happened on Sunday. It was really good. When I look at that, I look at, my plan that I had, and you need to adapt as you go. But for me, that was my second fastest ever Ironman. And look, I'm almost 50 years old, and I got to say, that's fantastic. Being in the sport this long, how do you keep getting faster and faster? And so it really is like, I know that you kind of laughed about my attitude of gratitude and how you changed that thinking so fast. But seriously, that is one of the keys to keeping things fresh and keeping yourself happy when you're racing. And I don't know, it's a big part of who I am, and that's kind of how I race. So for me, I think I'm just rambling now. What was your question again? Sorry.
What's your definition of a perfect race?
Okay, so if I can do the best job I can on that day, then I've had the perfect race.
How will you know if you've done the best job?
Okay, so when you're racing, you have to ask yourself, Todd, am I doing the best job I can right now? And if you're not, go faster. If you're going too hard, slow down. But you keep asking yourself that, and you have to answer yes as you go. And when you do that, when you finish, you're going to have that perfect race for that day.
Okay, cool. Well, Todd, this has been really fun. I enjoyed this, and I look forward to following you in the future, and I can't wait to see how you do in Nice.
Yeah, well, you know what? Maybe we'll do another follow-up podcast and see how it goes.
Yeah. Well, you have a good day, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good one. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you were able to learn something from today's episode. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to leave a review on iTunes or share it with a friend. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to see pictures from this athlete's race, learn more about who I am, what I'm doing, or be on the show yourself to share your story, check out my website at CoachTerryWilson.com. Until next time, continue the pursuit.